Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy DKEN, and welcome to my incredible podcast. Now, before we commence this episode, do not forget to Hulk smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, share this with your boys and your fat ass families. Follow me on Instagram, smash that bell notification button, and of course, as always, please enjoy. Let's get started. Our top story for today shall be whatever you do not move to New York fucking City. And I shall present to you several reasons why you should not go over to that hellhole of a dead city. Let's dive right into it. The number one reason why you should not move to NYC is, say it with me folks, money. That's right, money. The whole city, the big fucking apple, is losing money. The city that was once one of the richest cities in the world has lost billions and billions of dollars. And I've got news for everybody in this country, especially for all of y'all fucking New Yorkers, okay? Listen up. New York City is fucking dead forever. Forever. And I shall present to you several articles that shall prove all of my points. The first article is titled Virus Siphons $2.5 billion in New York City Property Tax Revenue. Now, this article came out back in January 17th of this year, and I'm only going to point out the top key details. It says, and I quote, "As New York City officials fight to control the coronavirus by this summer, it is becoming clear that the economic fallout will last far longer. The city's property tax revenues are projected to decline by $2.5 billion next year, the largest such drop in at least 3 decades. It continues on, and I quote, "City Hall officials said that the market value of the tax class that includes hotel, retail, and office properties has fallen by 15.8%, putting the city's budget in a precarious position for the foreseeable future. Roughly half of the city's tax revenue comes from real estate." It also says, and I quote, "But the city will still have to substantially cut spending, although officials gave no clear indication what services might be at risk." Mr. de Blasio said that since last January, the city had already cut 7,000 jobs through attrition and a hiring freeze. He now plans to reduce the city's headcount by another 5,000. So let me ask you a question, New Yorkers. How in the motherfuck are you going to make your money back? How? I want you to attempt to explain to me how you plan to get your green shit back. Well, guess what? You're doomed. All of you New Yorkers are fucked, and there's nothing you can do about it. Is New York City residents are moving out of the city and finding new locations to relocate to. So, as you may know, lots of people moved out of New York City, which had a very devastating effect. Here's another article that I shall present to you titled Study. New York lost net 70K residents and $34 billion in personal income this year. Now, this article came out back in December 15th of 2020, literally not too long ago. It says, and I quote, "Roughly a net of 70,000 New York City residents have left the area since COVID-19 first hit the country earlier this year, resulting in approximately $34 billion in lost income, according to a study released Tuesday by location analytics company Unicast. The report, which examined the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic on 3 New York City neighborhoods, Williamsburg in Brooklyn, Astoria in Queens, and Tribeca in Lower Manhattan, found that about 3.57 million people in total left the city this year between January 1st and December 7th. Unicast found that those people took with them about $298 billion of income, while the 3.5 million who immigrated to New York in that same time period brought about $264 billion to the city, leaving about $34 billion in lost income in the 8 months of the pandemic. So, ladies and gents, I want all of you to simply take a step back and think about the numbers that I just read to you. Think about how big these numbers are and how much of an impact it still has on this city. So, New Yorkers, again, how in the name of the Lord are you going to make your green shit back? Explain it to me. Otherwise, move out of that city and find another location to relocate to, all right? Simple as that. So, that was the first reason why you should never be in New York City. Money. The second reason why you should never move to NYC is, of course, crime. I shall present to you several clips on what crime is like in the streets of this city. Check these out.
The J-Train beating is brutal.
The NYPD says crime at bodegas is up by almost 25% since the pandemic began.
The NYPD says shooting incidents at bodegas since the pandemic began are up more than 63%.
Police need help finding this woman caught on video shooting at a clerk inside a bodega in the Bronx. The video is from inside the store on Westchester Avenue in a gray sedan east on Westchester.
Police say a 65-year-old woman was walking to church when a man punched and kicked her while shouting anti-Asian slurs. A security guard watched the whole time, and then more show up. None stopped the attacker, not one.
Latest on the officer shot. Body cam video shows the moment a man in Brooklyn fires down a staircase at 2 NYPD officers.
So I cannot stress this out enough. Crime has skyrocketed. It has risen from ground zero all the way up to fucking outer space. Here's another article titled NYC Shootings and Homicides Soared in 2020, Crime Data Shows. I shall read to you some very scary numbers that you need to take into account before you even get near the idea of moving to this fucking city. By the way, this article came out back in January 6th of this year. It says, and I quote, "Shootings and murders skyrocketed in 2020 throughout the Big Apple," the NYPD said as it released year-end crime data late Wednesday. The number of shootings soared 97% from 777 in 2019 to 1,531 in 2020. And murders jumped by 44% from 319 to 462, according to the NYPD. It continues on. The NYPD said it made arrests in about a third, which is 32%, of the shooting incidents and established probable cause to arrest a suspect in an additional 6% of the cases, according to the release. NYPD detectives cleared 54% of homicides that occurred within calendar 2020, the release states. It also says, and I quote, "Burglaries also shot up 42% from 10,909 to 15,463, and car thefts soared by 67% from 5,422 to 9,038, officials said. So, folks, I want you to take a step back again and think about these numbers. If you thought that the money problem was bad enough, think about how disturbingly bigger these numbers are. Think about how much more work the NYPD has to do to protect all of you. Think about how much people are dying every day, not just from these crimes, but also from COVID. Think about these bodega workers that became traumatized by these shootings. Of course, think about these hate crimes against Asian communities that erupted not just in NYC, but also in this country. Think about every single one of those things that I just mentioned and mash them together. That's what this city is going through. So that concludes reason number 2, crime. Now, reason number 3 shall be, and most certainly will be, the ridiculously high rent. That's right, rent. Now, for all of you New Yorkers, you already know how expensive it would be to live in certain neighborhoods like Williamsburg, Kew Gardens, 57th Street, Astoria, Bushwick, Little Neck, Great Neck, like the whole list goes down. All of you New Yorkers know by heart how expensive certain areas can be. However, for those of you that do not know how expensive it could be, I shall read to you another article titled, New York City Rent is Too Damn High Study. Now, this article was written back in July 17th of last year. So think about how difficult it was back in those days when we started to learn how to adapt with these COVID restrictions without a vaccine. And the headlines below the title of the article reads, and I quote, a New York City household would have to work 3 minimum wage jobs to afford rent on a typical 2-bedroom apartment, a new study found. It says in the beginning of the article, and I quote, a new study confirms what a viral political party has said for years. New York City rent is too damn high, or in the study's more polite terms, out of reach for many city dwellers. The study, Out of Reach 2020, by the National Low Income Housing Coalition, found rent for a typical New York City area 2-bedroom costs so much it would require working 3 full-time minimum wage jobs to cover it. Now wait, there's more. It says here, and I quote, affording a 2-bedroom apartment in New York City requires the equivalent of a $37.52 hourly wage or $78,040 a year, the study found. It continues on, and I quote, New York's overall fair market rent for a 2-bedroom apartment is $1,691, meaning renters would have to make $32.53 an hour to afford it, the study found. Those numbers dip significantly in non-metro parts of the state, down to $816 and $15.66 respectively. Folks, I understand that some of these numbers are way too much for some of you to take in. However, if you want to survive in the real world, you cannot ignore basic math. For those of you that don't care that much about numbers, well, go fuck yourselves. That's your issue, fix it. So that concludes reason number 3, rent. The number 4 reason why you should not move to New York City is because of the people that live there. Now, a lot of you might ask, what do I mean by this? Here are the following things that I mean by this statement. 1, typically the people that you will encounter in that city don't really give that much of a damn about you. Metaphorically speaking, most people you meet in that city will simply come and go super quick, like leaves and branches on a tree. They go in and out very fast. 2, a lot of people that you will meet tend to be shady people. And this is something that I learned from a mentor a long time ago and through experience. Most people, as in 80% at the very minimum, that you will meet will come off as friendly at first, but then later through their actions, they will show you that you don't mean anything to them at all. They'll just toss you aside like a piece of garbage and you're not even an afterthought. Quick piece of advice, only spend your time with those that truly care about you. Just that. On top of that, the dating scene in NYC is fucked. Basically, most of the females that you will come across in this city will simply not like you. They won't even acknowledge you. They won't even give you the time of day. They won't even look at you. Folks, I don't care who has the audacity to come up to the plate and attempt to prove me wrong or call me names and shame me. I know what the fuck I'm saying is true. To put it simply, if you are not a well-known alpha male like Chad or Brad or Tyrone in the school that you go to, these females cannot care any less about you. You are nowhere close as a thought to the front side of their heads. On top of that, YouTube has the nerve to advertise Bumble for New Yorkers. To which my response to that would be, like, are they retarded? Listen, folks, I know I said this before. All of these dating apps do not work anymore, especially during the time that we live in today. Stop advertising dating apps because we have way too many beta male cucks simping the night away for females they've never met on social media. Stop that bullshit. Number 5, New York City females have standards and expectations that are way too high, to the point that these standards are floating in outer space. I am confident enough to argue that no man comes close to reaching these standards that they expect us men to meet. These females will never understand that their expectations are unreasonable and unrealistic, especially of how they act this way on social media and dating apps. These self-entitled females will post as much selfies as they possibly can just to get 2 things from these beta male simps: attention and validation. That's it. They're not interested in meeting you. They don't care about you unless she sees that you are one of those Chads or Brads or Tyrones, like one of the famous and cool guys. Other than that, you don't even come close. And these are the same females that will say this when they're in their 30s.
What happened? Where did all the men go?
Number 6. A lot, if not most people over there tend to have a combination of problems, which can range from attitude problems to you looking at somebody and they'll respond back, "What are you looking at?" That kind of shit, it's kind of like a stereotype for New Yorkers. And I guess it's kind of a thing. And right away, you know that something's wrong with those people if they respond like that. And lastly, number 7, as New Yorkers, we are well known to be workaholics. We train ourselves to handle stressful 9-to-5 jobs, 8-to-5 jobs, sometimes even 7-to-5 jobs. The people over there, they just want to work. And as New Yorkers, we always got some other place that we need to be like fast, like chop. We have to go from point A to point B, then from point B to C, from C to D, from D to E, and so forth. All of these reasons I've stated were in regards to the people of this city and how they interact with one another. So with all of that said, this concludes this episode of my incredible podcast. So thank you very much for watching. Do not forget to Hulk smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, share this with your boys and your families, follow me on Instagram, smash that bell notification button, and every single one of you, have a wonderful and blessed day. Peace out.
I'm begging you not to go. Call your name 2-3 times in a row.